So hello YouTube. So the recording has just started. So okay, guys and girls, I think just about everyone's here. I think let's have a look at my app. I should have everybody. I'll make sure. Let's see. I know you had to get a ticket to join this. It's the only way to get the link. So yeah, let me know where everyone's from. Eastleigh, Hedge End, Portsmouth, Toes in Portsmouth. Anyone else? Wickham, nice, Kev, nice. Cornwall, Caroline, obviously. How you doing, Caroline? Okay. Good. I'm going to see you in a couple of weeks in London. A couple of weeks, a couple of months. November, I think. Okay, let's have a look. Make sure we've got everyone. So this is going to be the start of my Lightroom and probably Photoshop mini courses, if you like. So it's not going to go into massive amounts of throwing loads of data at you guys and girls, so you just get overwhelmed. It's taking little chunks and making your potentially your editing life just that little bit easier. Let's have a look. So we don't have Marge yet. We've got Caroline, Kev, Nick, Paul James. We've got. We're waiting for Pete, Sarah. Let's have a look. So who have we got so far? Kev. Okay. So there's potentially one or two more that might join in a second anyway, but we're going to get cracking up. Mar just sent me a message. How do you get online? I've clicked on the link I got yesterday. That should be it. So I'm actually using my website, which is a Wix website. Their integrated live stream stuff. I don't know how good it is. We'll soon see. If it's no good, next week I'll use potentially Zoom. I've got Zoom. I can do that. And I can also stream directly to YouTube. The thing with Zoom is it costs. So if I could find a way that I already have integrated into my workflow, it would have been better. So let's talk about Lightroom and making your life a little bit easier. So someone I had a talk with someone a little while ago, and they were asking about the export settings that I use for particular clients, or if I'm exporting for web, or if I'm exporting for potentially something else like weddings, that kind of stuff. Do I use presets? And the answer is yes. I make it really, really easy. So tonight I'm going to show you how to set up import presets when you import into Lightroom. I clicked it. So where are you? I don't know, Marge. Are you on your phone? Because it may not work. Are you on your phone? This is Margaret. If so, it may not work. Anyway, yeah, so Lightroom in particular, when you import, especially lots of pictures, you can add data as it imports. You can do certain things as it imports into Lightroom. And from there, once you then have done your editing, which we'll look at particular edit bits in other mini courses. Once you then look at exporting, you can export with certain preset parameters, which potentially might make things easier if you want to print images, if you want to maybe put images on the web, because you may not need print quality pictures to go on the web. So I'm going to ignore Marge for a minute. Let me just get rid of my Facebook tab, because that's just going to keep popping up. It's just going to make your life 10 times easier. I kid you not. I'm watching my video on my other screen. It keeps stopping. Let me just sort this out. On now, can't talk. Go away. Sorry, Marge. You'll have to watch the video back later, Marge. Sorry. So let me stream my screen. I'm going to share my screen with you. Hopefully, I can find my Lightroom there. Now I'm just going to check over yonder that it's coming up. It should be potentially. Are you seeing my Lightroom? Because I'm not. What's that showing? You are. Can you see pictures? Grey screen. Yeah, that's not my Lightroom for some reason. Let me hide that. Stop sharing a second. That wasn't, for some reason, that wasn't my Lightroom catalog. Let me make sure Lightroom's in the same tab. It is. Now this isn't gonna. Okay, good. I knew this was gonna go Pete Tong using Wix. No images. How much difference is Apple to PC based Lightroom in terms of? I don't really know, to be fair, because I've only ever used Mac with Lightroom. Before my Lightroom days, I was on PC, but I've always used the Mac. So I don't know if anyone else has got any PC here. Yeah, I don't know what's going to be your best bet. Let me work out how I do this. Oh, I can do entire screen. Let's do entire screen. So you're going to see my entire screen. That should show you. There we go. All right, that's better. So I'm just going to show you my entire screen. So hopefully you can see me still. And next to me, or that way, you should see another screen. Good. Fantastic. You can make that bigger. I'm sure you can tap on that and make that full screen. I don't know. Yeah, so somewhere on there that should make that full screen if you wanted to. But everything I show you on here, you should be able to see pretty okay. Now full. Okay, good. So what you'll see here is my import screen. So I've already looked at what I'm going to show you tonight. And the first one is up the top here. So let me just make this really simple. So on the left-hand side, we have a location of where our files are located currently. In the middle here at the top is what we're going to do and how we're going to import them. And on the right is what's going to happen to them after we've imported them. So let's first off, we would locate the images we're looking for. I've got lots of different folders and stuff down here that I have of stuff that's already imported. So these are currently on my hard drive already. These are edited images of Corf Castle from a few weeks ago. And I currently have the Add tab open at the top there. I hope you can all see that, Add. And on the right hand side, this is what is going to happen to it once I apply the import. So we only have very basic things we can do with this because they're already on my hard drive. There's nowhere to move them to. If I went across to move, I have all these other things I can do and things I have to look at potentially. In addition to what we have in the ad. All we have here is develop settings if you wanted to, in particular, if you have any presets already installed in Lightroom and or Photoshop, you can pre-select one to be applied to your image as you import it. I don't tend to do that because I don't feel it's necessary. I'd rather import it than do all the stuff with presets afterwards if I need to. But the main one I've got here is the metadata. Now, I've got a few in there. I'm going to go through these in a second with you once I explain the other import settings at the top here. But basically, these are all presets that are going to apply metadata. That is data that is ingrained in your digital image. It's your EXIF stuff. It's your copyright information, that kind of stuff that is ingrained in the kind of background of your image. You never see it. It's just like data you never really know. And I have some different ones here depending on what kind of image I'm importing. Obviously, I've got a landscape one. I have a wedding one. Don't worry about JPI. That's for something completely different. But I have an interior design one, which I actually use for everything else, which is what I'm going to show you in a second. So when we add these, we're literally just adding them to the Lightroom catalog. Doesn't do anything else to them. They don't change locations. Wherever they are currently is where they're going to stay. They don't do anything. If I go to move, I can now move I can import these into the catalog and move them at the same time. So we have more options down the bottom here. We still have the apply metadata part here, but above that we now have a rename file. So when we import them and move them, we can rename the files if we want to. We put whatever we want in there, and when it gets moved, that custom text will become its name, and then it's usually in a sequence. So start number would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and in this case 5 and 6. Depending on how many you're importing, that could be up to 600, whatever it is. And then your destination. So they're the only real main things you'll be looking at here is the file renaming, the what to do with the metadata when we import, and the destination. So if we're going to move, these obviously have to then go somewhere, and I've obviously got a lot of different hard drives connected to my laptop, and or I could put them in somewhere in my laptop itself if I particularly wanted to. So these are all the locations, including currently I've got an SD card plugged in, which is called Untitled, and you'll see that over the other side here too, Untitled in my source devices. So in most cases, you're going to have this situation where you have an SD card, your source destination or your source device is going to be your SD card. So if I click on that, you'll notice at the top here that move and add are now no longer available to be selected. And that's for a reason, because if they're on an SD card, generally you're going to be putting them somewhere either on your hard drive or on your another hard drive potentially connected. You're not going to move them from one place to the same place, if that makes sense. So move is now gone. So what we have instead is copy, and copy as DNG. Now, to keep having IT problems, sorry, you have to leave. Okay, Carolyn, hopefully you can get back in a bit. We'll see in a bit. With copy, that is basically going to copy the images in. Now, these are just what's on my SD card that aren't currently showing what I've already imported off this SD card, because I've actually imported quite a few bits and pieces that I haven't deleted off this SD card yet, which I normally do. But I'm only really going to import one, and that's this one up here. I don't even know whether it's in focus, to be fair. This was from Corfe Castle a few weeks ago. But I'm going to do a couple of things. So I'm going to rename this. Now I have a template here that I can use to rename. So I'm going to rename this a custom name and sequence. And I do that on purpose. There's a lot of different ones you can do in there. You can add the date and the file name. You can just keep the file name that it has. You can add just a custom name with nothing else. The problem that causes is with every image that it imports, it's going to have the same file name, and that's going to be a bit tricky. So what I tend to do is a custom name and then a sequence, and the sequence number is going to start at 1. Very simple. So generally for something like this, it'd be something like Corfe Castle. And when I import this, if there is more than one, which there isn't, I'm only really going to import one because it's the only one selected there. I don't know if you can see that. It's only going to import one image. Now, what I need to do with this now is I'm not going to worry about develop settings, but I'm going to look at the metadata. So with metadata, this is going to turn into my landscapes. So my landscapes preset for import is going to have a certain amount of data in it, which is going to be then ingrained in that image and potentially the 600 or so images after that. So I'm going to show you what this preset actually does. So if I come down and go to, you'll notice there's a new there as well. We'll come to that in a second. So edit presets. Now these are going to be, let's go to my landscapes. These are going to be, I'm going to take screenshots of these later, by the way. And when I've sorted the video out, I'm going to do a blog on my website, which is going to show you these pictures too. So don't worry too much about taking note at the moment. But there's a lot of things on here I don't add because it's unnecessary. I don't need to add a name for the copy. I don't need to add a rating at this point. What I do need is a label, and I do need a caption. So generally, you'll see this quite a bit. My caption is going to also be down here somewhere as well. And it will, mainly my creator website, is going to be what you see when, I don't know if you ever import images to websites like, what do I do? Purpleport. So when I import an image into Purpleport, which is a photographer / model sort of meetup website, the caption actually comes out underneath the picture. It actually takes that information off my image and actually already incorporates that into the caption underneath the picture. And that's why these things are quite good. And within there is not only photo taken by Andy Hornby Photography, it's also got my website. Boom, look at that. And that information is already there. Once I import that into the website, it's up there. I don't need to do anything else. So in the basic information, label is a landscape photo, and it's by Andy Hornby Photography. Obviously, yours would be your own. Don't do anything for the camera information. That should already be ingrained anyway. If you have your GPS set on your camera, that'll be on there automatically anyway. IPTC stuff, I don't worry about that. I do with other presets, and I might show you one of the others in a second. But for everything else, for copyright stuff, Andy Hornby Photography and copyright status, there's actually a drop down there. You can either set that to whatever you like, but copyrighted. And by the way, when you do this, you can actually do this in camera. So your camera does have a copyright. If you've got a digital camera, it does have a copyright thing ingrained in it. And however which way you do it, it doesn't really matter. For some reason I do both, and I don't know why, because when they import, it just overwrites it in here anyway. But you have to also remember that just saying that your image is copyrighted here doesn't make your image copyrighted. A legally copyrighted image has to be registered. So this gets people sometimes. So when you talk about having a copyrighted image, it's just a loose term. If you actually physically want to copyright your image legally, you have to do that through the government. Funny enough, there's a form somewhere on the government website, just so you know. So it's okay saying it is your image. You do have the copyright as such, and you're the only one who can copyright it legally, but you have to actually physically do it to copyright it. You don't have to do it straight away neither. So if you ever get any problems with an image 10 years down the line, you can copyright your image later, as long as you have the original and you can prove that it's yours. So the main one here is the creator. So all this information here, I keep it nice and loose. Portsmouth, Hampshire, UK. I've got an email address in there and a website, and the job, obviously, photographer. I put all that information in there because if anybody ever uses this, for instance, I send stuff sometimes to the news, all this information, they take this and actually use that information underneath the captions that they use, this and having the, an email in there too is really, really, handy. If you right click on any image that hasn't been put on Facebook, and we'll come to that in a minute, you can right click and get the information. All this information should be there ready to hand. And that's pretty much all I do. There's not a lot else on that form. It's a big form. There's loads of stuff on there. I don't do anything other than that. That's enough. So that's my main preset for my landscapes. Now let's have a look at interior design, all others. It's exactly the same. Look, pretty much exactly the same. But what it does say there, instead of landscape images by Andy Hornby, it just says Andy Hornby Photography. It's just, I have that in mind when I import stuff, just to make sure I know what's what. There's a few others there. Wedding slightly different. So on my wedding website's a different website address. So that's obviously different. And obviously I've put in there the label is wedding photography by. Excuse me, everything else is pretty much the same. Apart from that, shouldn't have a hyphen in it anymore. That's changed. So we'll edit that. Awesome. Save. And that's pretty much it for your Insta. The only difference here with copy and copy as DNG is that DNG is non-proprietary. So if you think about your camera system that you have, the Canons, the Sonys, they all have different file names or file extensions, if you like. If you copy it in as a DNG, when it comes into the catalog, it then has to wait. You have to wait another however long it takes to convert these into a DNG, which is non-proprietary to your camera. So there shouldn't be any issues in the future. And it's only going to ever, to be fair, I've turned that off now. I've started to just use copy. I did use copy as DNG all the time, but because I'm now using the A7R4, which has very big file sizes, and I do time lapses a lot. Importing these in takes a long time anyway, but to then convert them to DNG takes takes twice as long. It wants to then do all kinds of stuff to convert them. So I tend to not bother doing that now, but that's just a personal preference. It's up to you. The only thing I will say is that if Adobe ever has a problem with Canon or Sony or one of the other manufacturers, it can just turn off their system completely. So all these ARW files that I have in here, potentially if they don't like Sony anymore, they can just turn it off and you won't be able to use any of your files. What you would have to do is convert them somewhere else and re-import them back in. But that's just if. That's a big if. I don't know whether that will ever happen. I don't know. That's one of the things that may or may not ever happen. Who knows? So that's import you know, at a real, you know, quick going over. You just have to remember to keep it really simple. This is just about making your life a little bit easier. And if you have these presets with things like the metadata, you import and all the information is going to be there. You don't have to worry about it. If you do import and you want to use a preset to import and convert, remember that's going to take extra time on the import. So you're going to import your images. It's going to then want to add all these nice, wonderful presets as it imports. And that's it. So let's import this as it is at the moment. Let's find somewhere to put it. Let's just that's the landscape. Let's put it somewhere just in there for now. I can delete it later. Let's just turn all these off so we can see our file, hopefully. And there she is. I don't even know whether it's in focus, to be honest with you. I think it's one of the ones I didn't use it for some reason. I've imported all these before. There's one I didn't use. So I'm not going to edit this. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to show you the export settings. These are a little bit more intricate, if you like, but they're also going to make your life a hell of a lot easier in terms of thinking about where these images are now going to go. So if I go down to export, there's a lot of stuff in there already, but let me show you the export box. I've recently done a sunrise with Jenny. That's why these details are still in there. But let's have a look down the side here. I have some user presets. In fact, I've got quite a few, more than you probably see with most people, because I keep rejigging them every time I want to add something or take something out of a certain preset. You can't really edit the presets once they're there. You just have to add another one. I don't know why I haven't removed them, to be honest with you. So the first one I started off with was, if I click just to the right, I won't click the box because that's going to do all kinds of wonderful things. So I'm just going to click to the right a bit. This is going to show you what that preset does on this side. So the first thing is export to. Now export to here, you've got a nice drop down and some places you can put it. So specific folder, and underneath I've got user desktop. And I've done that because when I click on this, what it wants to do is put it in a subfolder called Final Edits. That subfolder doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist for a reason. So you have to make the folder first, and that's a whole nother lesson, if you like. You have to make the folder, then go and choose it, then delete the folder, so that when you press the button there and go to batch export here, you then get this box. Otherwise you wouldn't get this box. It would just export them directly there. And the reasons why I do that is because I want to add custom text. I also want to choose the folder myself. So there, so I can now choose the folder, go through all my different folder systems and whatnot, and find where to place it. Now, if that seems a little bit, let's just go back into the export box there. If that seems a little bit far-fetched or a little bit too weird to understand, just remember this. I want to export it to a specific folder, but I don't want it to actually do that here. I want to be able to do that myself. What I would normally do is go down and press choose folder later, but then I can't use the preset to do that because it doesn't work in the next box. Hope that makes sense. So you have to do it that way. You have to choose specific folder and then go choose, create the folder, choose that folder, come back, delete that folder, but it's then once you've got the preset, it's in there. So the next one down is file renaming. Now this is a big one because it depends on what you want to do with it. Now what I normally do is a custom text and then a sequence. So if I show you what you drop down in here, you have so many different things you could potentially do, but it just makes sense to give your files a name afterwards. You could leave them with the file names you gave them on import, because potentially you're not far off, and then sequence. But I tend to just make sure, even after I've edited the images, that I know what the file name is going to be. And then the sequence will have a starting number. If I didn't choose that, so let's just go file name. You don't have the options to have a start number. It doesn't give you that option because you wouldn't need one. You're just changing the file name. And down here, it gives you the example. So in here, it could be anything, landscapes, and then you'll see it changes down in the example. So it's going to be landscapes -1. You can change the extension to uppercase if you like. So it'd be JPEG uppercase or lowercase. Doesn't really matter anymore. There used to be issues online because a lot of what you find with JPEGs, they're used for online, and that's what JPEG was kind of created for, is to be used at a low res but look good for web. So websites would either prefer an uppercase or a lowercase. Nowadays it doesn't matter, so don't worry too much about that. It's fine. I don't worry about video because I'm not really doing video here, but file settings, it's going to be a JPEG output. Now my quality is 80% there, it's not at 100%. And I do that for a reason, because at 80% drastically decreases the size of my outputted file, but with not so much decrease in quality. So if I'm just pumping out a picture for a website, I don't have to worry about the quality being 100%. Most websites, when you've got a file size, they kind of make them smaller anyway to fit on the web page. So you don't really need to worry about the quality that much. And then down here, resize to fit. This is a big one for me. So depending on where it's going, I resize to 2500 on the width or 2500 on the height. But I click the don't enlarge on purpose because I don't want an image to be enlarged to this size. So if I'm exporting an image that's smaller than that size, it won't enlarge it. And the resolution is going to output 72 pixels per inch. Now for web, it's more than enough. And that's pretty much it. The metadata I don't change because I don't need to. I imported metadata when I imported it, and watermark. So I have a specific watermark down here. Now to add a watermark, if you don't do that already, I would suggest starting to do that on export. I usually export to a print size and a web size at the same time with most stuff other than time-lapse images. And I do that because of Facebook. Now you'll notice if I put images on most places on the internet, it'll have a watermark on it. I know it's one of those big love-hate things with watermarks, but because places like Facebook, Instagram, they strip all of that metadata that I put in there, all of that copyright information, all of the email address and the website address, that's gone. If you right-click, if you save an image from Facebook and you right-click on it on your desktop, put it on your desktop, right-click on it and find the information, there's not a lot of information there other than Facebook stuff. That's because if you read the terms and conditions of Facebook, you allow them to do that. So on Facebook and on Instagram, I always have a watermark just in the corner somewhere, just so people know that it's my image, because there's another way of telling. Anywhere else on the internet, I don't really bother. So on the left-hand side here, so let me just go through watermarks quickly. So I've got a lot of watermarks there, loads. I've got some that go back 2019, 17. I've got boudoir ones if I'm exporting boudoir stuff. I've got a Hampshire cosplay one because I'm obviously part of a cosplay group and I do a lot of their images, so I export a lot of their stuff. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in there. So you can edit your watermarks. This is the one here. So if we open this dialog box now, this is going to show you where my watermark is going to go, what it's going to look like. And it's good to show you guys this. So opacity is down to 84%, so it's not 100%. You can import your image by clicking choose, and then that just opens up your normal dialog box. Go and find it. Obviously, you have to create the watermark first. You need to do that with a transparent background, potentially. And then all these other bits down here are just where it's going to go, how big it's going to be, where it's going to anchor to. So potentially if I've got a portrait image, or Facebook series, I'm just reading the next thing there. And a watermark, and then clients I export full size, no watermarks. So you can pictures, yeah. So Nick, I'll do the same thing. I'm going to show you that in a second. So you can anchor it to there. So if I've got a portrait, it's going to be in the left-hand corner as well. It'll always go in the same place. I don't add any text options because I don't need to. But if you didn't want to import an image and just have text, you can do. You can take the image out and just have text, and then place that where you want to. It's a really good idea, guys, to do that. So what Nick was talking about there, I made a watermark in Photoshop. Could add that. How to go to Photoshop? Yeah. So instead of going to Photoshop to add it, Terry, I would actually do that in Lightroom. So much easier, and you can do it to multiple images as you export. You don't have to just do it one at a time. Obviously, it depends on your whether your watermark's transparent, and it'll have a background if it's not, that kind of stuff. So what Nick was on about is actually exporting twice. So what I tend to do is I do all this. I have a high res version. So let's go to that turns some things off. So this goes to, again, a specific folder. That folder is called high res alamy. I'll talk about that in a second. So custom name, an original file number. I keep that for a reason, because generally if I'm working for a client, so let me just show you the difference. So what I had before was custom name sequence. This is custom name, an original file number. And the reasons why I keep that is because if I have a client that wants to come back to me time and time again for edits, they can send me the same number from what they saw originally, and then I can find that file from the original source. Only text will just import PNG file. Yeah, so bring a PNG file if you can, or you can use text. Paul, you can use text there. So yeah, so that's the reasons why I use that for the high res image, because generally it's for a client, and clients I can go back and forwards. I don't resize. I keep 100% quality in this one, and resolution is set to 300. That's good for anything up to print as well. So that's gonna, your cameras will take pictures in 300 pixels per inch. So keeping it at 300 pixels per inch, keeping it at 100% quality, and not resizing it. You may have done a crop potentially, but not resizing it at all, is going to give your clients the biggest, best quality image that they can get. And nothing else has changed there. I don't add a watermark to those ones. Don't add a watermark. So what I tend to do then, guys and girls, is I have two settings here. So I will click the high res and low res for web, and I'll go batch import there, and then I've got this screen, and then I choose where I want to put it. So it doesn't go to desktop. Remember, that desktop doesn't exist, or it shouldn't exist. It probably does, because I've done it by accident. But you'd find where on your computer you want to save it to. It might be in a client folder. So if I've got my photography commercial folder there, some bits and pieces I've done recently rather, I will choose that. And then I'll do the same for the low res. So I'd go there and there and there. Commercial. Did I pick commercial? I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah. So they're going to go to the same place. They're going to actually create different folders, and that's important too, because you don't want them mixed up. I'll change the custom names. Let's go Corf there. I'll use the same there. And here my start number is going to be 1. There my start number doesn't matter, because it's going to keep the original file number that it had. In this case, it was 1, funnily enough. And then I'll just export. Let me show you what that does. So if I export that and I go to where that's exported to, you have to excuse me for a second there. It's actually created these two folders. So it's created high res alamy and low res web. They're both exactly the same image, unedited obviously, but obviously the sizes are massive. This is only 600 kilobytes. This one is 19.1 megabytes, you know, a good 50 times or so bigger, give or take. So I now have two folders. I named this alamy for a reason. I'll just tell you what that is now. So I do a lot of stuff for stock photography. Alamy is a stock photography website, so I can go onto my computer and type in alamy on your spell, and it will come up with all my alamy folders. And then whatever high res alamy, look at all those high res alamy folders that they're all located in different places. It just means I can find my high res images really quickly. That's the only one I do that. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me just go back into the export dialog box again and show you again. So let me go on to my low res for web. Pretty much similar to what you had before. So resolution 72, 8% quality. Yeah, so it's the same as my number 1 up there for some reason. I just have a separate one for it. I created new presets over the years and didn't bother removing the old ones. So anybody have any questions on that? Anyone want me to go over any of that? Keep it really simple. Make yourself a couple of presets, and all you do is once you've got everything in here sorted the way you want it to, hit add and give it a name. So if I hit add there, I just give that preset a name, choose the folder where I want to put it. It's going to be in user presets because it's your preset, and then literally it's there forever. I would consider 2. So I would consider one for web. When I was 60% right, what I was doing, Nick, brilliant. So one for web, always add a watermark to that one. Anywhere you put it on the web, on a website somewhere, on Facebook, anything like that, add a watermark to it. I would always say that it is a big, should I, shouldn't I, nightmare. Keep it relatively small. It doesn't have to be massive. I made that with some text I got off the font. So it's actually a font. It's not even I haven't even described that. It's literally just a font I've got off a website. You may even have a weird and wonderful font on your system already, and then just add a photography underneath it. So Andy Hornby, however you want to do it, whatever you call yourself, upload that to your export watermark folder down here, and then just use it on your on your web, on your web size pictures. Sounds like a stupid question. I hate using watermarks. I feel it gets in the way, but totally understand why used. But in your opinion, where's the ideal area? All mine have always been bottom left. For some reason, I keep thinking, should I move it to the middle? I saw someone had theirs in the middle, but they had more of a sort of longer texty watermark than mine, so it kind of works. Kind of out of the way. Keep it out of the way. It doesn't have to be, in the middle of thing. I know you use it in areas that cannot be cropped to get rid of. Yeah, I don't even know what to say, because someone could take my image into Photoshop and you can get rid of it really easy. It's just, it's that convenience thing for someone to have to do that. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. If they're going to crop, they're going to crop. I see people put their watermark smack dab in the middle or just off to the side. I tend to just leave it at the bottom left for me. Yeah, I wouldn't even worry too much. And then have a second preset for high res. Keep everything at the highest resolution you possibly can, so 300 pixels per inch. Keep quality at 100%, and you're going to output your JPEGs at the best quality you can. And then what I do is literally click both every time, other than a time lapse. I'll have a high res TL there. That's my time lapse. Just you how to upload a watermark. Yeah. So what you would do is down here, edit watermarks. Up the top here, choose, and all you do is go and find it wherever you've saved it to on your thing. Find it, hit choose. It will bring it in, and then it will be there. And then you just choose where to put it down here. Let's get rid of the text option. In the watermark effects, you just choose, the opacity and where to put it. Have a play. There's no real one set way of doing it. Yeah, I have a high res TL preset for my time lapses. Apart from that, I only really export just that, but everything else I export to high res and low res. If it's a wedding, it's a wedding high res and low res. So res again, and that'll be the one. But that's pretty much it, guys and girls. Keep it really, really simple. This stuff is just going to literally. Let me just hide that. I don't know why I even had that open. This stuff is literally going to be helping you just shave off those few minutes. If you, like me, edit, sometimes, dozens of images at any one time, using those kind of import presets and export presets are going to shave potentially 10-15 minutes off your export and import stuff. Never batch exported before, so I've learned something. Brilliant, Nick. Nice one. Yeah, definitely worth a go. Yeah, Terry. Yeah, brilliant. Definitely worth a go. You'll see it. You'll start shaving time off your editing time. I find it with watermarking a lot quicker as well than going over to Photoshop. So that's pretty much it, guys and girls. That was a pretty mini short course. Going to start preset settings now. Absolutely. Cheers, James. Paul James. Next week, I've already looked at doing something different. Are you saying that there's no benefit to having a high res? No, there's no benefit at all, because your camera can only shoot up to 300 pixels per inch. You can try and add more. All it's going to do is increase your file size, and it's just going to get more pixelated, because those pixels are just going to want to expand and get bigger and bigger and bigger. It isn't going to actually do any benefit at all, buddy. Next week, I'm looking at Lightroom again, and it will be looking at the masking and a few hidden little techniques in there to make your masking a little bit better. So if you're interested in that, next Sunday, same time, 9 o'clock, It won't take long, probably half an hour, that one. That'll be a fairly quick one too. So if you're interested in that, that'd be fantastic. Any other questions before I go? I mean, yeah, cheers, Terry. Quick question, if you don't mind. Absolutely, mate. Go for it. I've got loads of time. Cat loading. What's that? Cat loading. Cataloging? What are we looking at? When you start to make a new new catalog, yeah. Nightmare catalogs. Where do you play this? Okay, so all of my catalog files aren't on my hard drive. They're on an exterior hard drive. I currently work with a 2 external hard drive setup. So all of my apps are on my hard drive, but things like my Lightroom catalog are on a hard drive over here, and my working hard drive for edits on a completely different hard drive. I did used to look at having a NAS drive, but I just find it bulky and a bit too much to have all in that kind of one place. So yeah, so I've currently got 2 drives attached to my laptop. If I'm doing anything in Lightroom and or Photoshop, yeah, 2 hard drives. Just the way I work. I normally say make a folder, say wedding one file. So I don't change catalogs. If you look in, let me just share again. If you look in my, hopefully it works. Let's go over to here. So let's cancel that. So if you look in, where are we? So my passport for 1 is, there we go. My passport 2, these are all, so I have a landscape folder in there. Let me close that. I have all kinds of bits and pieces, Miss Nancy, a workshop backup folder. I put them all in the same catalog, but I clear my catalogs out after a little while. What I do, there's a shortcut to clear your catalog. So if anything that isn't flagged as a white flag, you can delete out of your Lightroom. It doesn't delete them off your disk, but it takes them out of the catalog. New to Lightroom, normally use Photoshop, using yeah, definitely, mate. I was Photoshop exclusively until about 6, maybe 7 years ago. And then I started looking at Lightroom. It changed my editing completely. So you talk to a wedding photographer who was literally Photoshop only. Now most of my edits are done in Lightroom, and the special things, adding, taking stuff out, that kind of stuff, doing a little bit of flair potentially, is done in Photoshop. But Lightroom, yeah. So the catalogs can be cleared up. I can't remember what the shortcut is now, but it's somewhere in there. You can just it says delete, but it doesn't actually delete anything off your hard drives. What it does do is just clears up your catalog, so you can go through your catalog, untag using the U button. So anything that is already tagged that you want to just get out of your Lightroom catalog, just press the U and then use this shortcut, whatever it is, and it will just delete them. Bearing in mind, it also deletes stuff off your Lightroom mobile. I didn't know that at one point, so I've got catalogs on my Lightroom mobile. It will sync to that and take out stuff that you might want to keep on there. So go through that first and tag stuff, just in case. That kind of stuff is all for another thing anyway. Guys and girls, if you've got anything that you want me to go over in one of these mini courses, send me an email, send me a message. If there's anything in particular, I mean, Photoshop we're going to look at some point. That's going to be let's break stuff down to individual parts. It's not going to be a show me how to work Photoshop, because that's like a week's worth of workshops. But anything in particular in Photoshop that you want me to look at, to do a course on, more than happy to do that. But yeah, next week we're looking at masks in Lightroom. So how to mask stuff really easily, how to use a secret little hidden function in the mask to make it even easier and better than what you could potentially even do in Photoshop. So it means that I don't have to go from Lightroom to Photoshop and back again. It's just massive. Since they updated it last year, huge. So if you're in for that, hopefully I'll see you next week. The I think the event for that is already up on my website. So go and have a look at the page that I posted, and I'll do another post tomorrow probably where that is, and then you can potentially sign up for that. Cheers, Nick. See you next week. Cheers, Paul. Fantastic. By the way, this video I will put up on YouTube and on my website. Thanks. Cheers, Kev. Yeah, see you soon, mate. Thanks, Terry. See you next week. I think that's about everyone. Okay, thanks, guys and girls. Cheers for you guys on YouTube as well. If you're watching this back on YouTube, please leave a comment down below. And it's good to, if you've got any questions, it's good to answer those too. So I will see you all soon. Take care. Bye.